Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Essay. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei got harem with Sona and Irina? Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. So what now? Do you want to trade pieces so Issei can join your peerage? Rias asked calmly. She figured that was the least she could do as a friend. After all, Sona trained Issei just to ensure that when she came for him, he would be powerful enough to ensure that he could stop Riser. Sona was stunned because this was her chance. I don't know. Let's discuss it with Issei when I go see him. Sona replied. She really wanted to say yes. She really wanted to bring Issei to her side once and for all. However, she wanted to let Issei decide. He had gone along with everything until now and she loved that. Issei deserved to choose his fate. Of course Sona also wanted to find out what he wanted to discuss with her. Okay, Rias replied as the pair went to get changed. Sona didn't say as much, but the truth was obvious. She was about to lose Issei Haidu for good both as a pawn and a potential lover. The fact that he was the Red Dragon Emperor made it even worse, and the fallout was going to be insane. Scene skip. The girls sat and waited in the living room, knowing that Issei was on his way soon. Both girls knew that this was the moment where everything changed. Finally somebody knocked on the door and the question wasn't who it was, but which of the girls would greet him. Why don't you greet him, Rias? Sona suggested. Sure, Rias replied, knowing that her time with Issei was over. At least she had one last chance to speak to him. Rias POV. As I went to the door I was extremely nervous because I didn't know how Issei would react to seeing me. Our relationship was awkward from the beginning and up until now I had no idea why. As I opened the door I saw Issei and he was completely calm. Almost as though he saw this coming. Hello Rias. I take it Sona told you the truth. Issei said in an almost nonchalant voice. That's right. She's waiting in the living room. I replied. He wasn't angry, in fact he was almost calm. This can't be good. Scene skip. It turns out Issei's favor was for one of us to add Zenobia to our peerage. It didn't make sense to me since Zenobia was returning to the church and I couldn't see a scenario where she even becomes a devil. I had to ask why he thought that would happen and who should take her. Putting aside why you think she'd want to become a devil, which one of us should reincarnate her? You clearly know her strengths better than we do and any insight you have would help. Sona asked, beating me to the punch. In my head I was sure he would pick Sona. After all, she's his girlfriend and we both know my peerage is stronger. Then again, that balance was about to change anyway. Issei thought about it for a moment and said something that caught me off. Sona needs her more, but she needs Rias more. That made no sense. I get why Sona would need her more, but why would she need me more? What do you mean by that? Sona questioned again, beating me to the punch. Zenobia is pretty strong even without Excalibur, and Sona needs the firepower for her peerage. Issei admitted. Not for long I thought to myself, knowing what we are about to ask. So wait, if that's true why not just say Sona? I wondered. Because Zenobia is going to be in a new place where she knows nobody else besides me and you guys. Rias is better equipped to handle that because of her experience with Kaneko Akeno and Kiba. Plus a brand new student joining the student council would be a red flag. Issei admitted. Alright, Sona replied calmly. But that out of the way, it was time for the question of the night. Hey Issei, what if Sona had a little more firepower in her peerage? I asked nervously. I had no clue how he'd react to this, and his answer scared me. Issei looked at me and almost frowned. Let me guess, you asked Sona if she wanted to trade pawns so I could be by her side. That's right, and she told me that she wanted to see what you thought before a decision was made. I admitted. Here we go, I was about to lose my pawn. Normal POV. As Rias admitted her desire to trade pawns with her best friend, Issei Haidu paused to think about something. Hey Rias, why would you suggest that? Issei questioned. He wasn't angry or happy. Issei was merely curious. Something that unnerved both girls. Ever since you became my pawn I've had the feeling that something was off. You knew too much about the supernatural, and I never felt like you were loyal to me despite how you acted. When Sona told me the truth I realized why I felt that way. Rias admitted. In other words, you now feel as though Sona was merely lending me to you in order to stop Riser and that I should have been her pawn all along. Issei replied. Exactly. Rias replied. Rias, it was never, Sona started to say, but Rias interrupted. Don't say anything Sona because it really doesn't matter. I don't have Issei's loyalty and if you want him as your pawn I'll be okay with it. Issei has done more than enough for me. Rias said coldly. She knew if he didn't push her away, Issei would stay with her and things would continue to be awkward. Alright, Sona replied before turning to Issei and nodding her approval. It seems the decision has been made for me. I'll go to Sona and Saji and Raruko will go to Rias in addition to her extra pawns. As for Zenobia, I still think she should go to Rias. Really, Rias replied, still shocked that he wouldn't want Sona to get the young woman. I said it already, you guys have an atmosphere that's better suited for Zenobia. I'll be around her enough that she has me. You can even move her in with Asia in that apartment she's been staying at since the Excalibur incident began. Issei explained. Rias began to tear up since she couldn't believe Issei was still thinking of her. Thank you, Issei. Rias said in disbelief. You're welcome, Issei said with smile. Well, if that's all, I think that we should get going. I have to explain everything to my peerage, and that's not gonna be fun, Sona said calmly. I bet, Issei replied cheekily as he turned to leave. Just before he was out of sight, Rias called out one more time. Issei, wait, Rias pleaded. Just as she wanted to, Issei stopped and turned towards the young woman. What is it, Rias? Before you leave, I have just one favor. Rias wondered. Of course, Issei replied before Seraphol Leviathan revealed herself. Clearly there was much more to do. Scene skip. What was already an emotional day for Rias Gremory had become even more so as the Leviathan revealed herself. Learning the truth about the events that led to her rook becoming a part of her peerage, Rias was even more shaken than before. Once the Nekomata siblings were gone, Sona revealed to her sister that she and Rias would be trading pawns, and instead of freaking out, Seraphol smiled and said she would explain things to Surziches. So about that favor, Rias? Issei said calmly, reminding her of what she wanted. Never mind, Rias said bashfully. Her desire to have Issei take her just once would have been too difficult. So let's meet up tomorrow at the Orc and explain everything. Fortunately for us, we have a week off and we can arrange everything pretty easily. Sona said calmly. Alright, I'm gonna head home. Today's been crazy, Rias said calmly before teleporting home. So now what? Issei wondered. How about we have a true meet the family dinner? I'm kinda tired of all the secrets. Sona suggested. Sure, but I hope you're ready. Issei smirked. Scene skip. I always wondered where your quirky side came from, and now I know, Sona smirked as she cuddled in bed with Issei after a nice bout of hot sex. The pair had just finished the dinner with the family, and among the surprises for Sona was the fact that Issei's family knew about the supernatural and about their budding relationship. This from the girl whose older sister wears a magical girl outfit as a uniform. Issei teased. Oh, shut up, Sona smirked as she kissed Issei on the cheek. There was something that was bothering her, but she didn't want to bring it up and hoped that a bout of sex would force it away. Unfortunately, that plan failed and Sona was curious again. Hey Issei, why do you think that Zenobia will want to become a devil? Sona wondered. It's because Issei started to say before he heard a knock on the door. Unfortunately for Sona, so did she. Let me guess, Sona groaned. Yep. Zenobia, and surprisingly enough Irina is her too. Issei groaned equally as the latter got up to get dressed. This was gonna be a long night. Scene skip. Opening his eyes, Issei Haidu was extremely annoyed at how things had played out. Not only was Zenobia back, but Irina had come with her, and both girls knew the truth. Since it was so late, Irina and Zenobia went back to their guest room to sleep, and he and Sona went to his room for a nightcap, which was badly needed. He was hoping to sneak away for some morning training, but when he tried to sneak away, he spun right into Irina's bare breasts. His childhood friend must have snuck in after he and Sona went to sleep. Oh, and she was naked also. Irina moaned slowly as her eyes opened to see Issei's breasts on her face. What the hell are you doing here, Irina? Issei groaned. I couldn't sleep because Zenobia's sleeping patterns suck. Plus after the night I had, you at least owed me a cuddle, mister. Irina lectured. I'd love to chat, but I have morning training to get to. Issei said coldly. So you're leaving two naked girls to go work out? What kind of pervert are you? Irina teased. The type that happens to hold a long anus and knows that if he doesn't get stronger he'll lose the people he loves. Issei retorted before wriggling off the bed and getting dressed. Once he was gone, Irina turned towards the other person on the bed and smiled. Thank you, Sona. I'm glad that Issei found somebody like you. Irina smiled, hoping the Sitri heiress would stay asleep. We're not dating, Irina. Issei and I are just sex friends. You can still be a part of your childhood friend's life if you'd like. Sona retorted, having woken up a moment ago. We'll see, Irina chuckled before going back to sleep. The supernatural world was about to change, and Irina and Sona both knew that the man behind the change was out getting some early morning training. Issei POV. You ever heard of the saying, when it rains it pours? Well, today it's pouring for me. After I returned from my training, my mother and father were sitting in the family room with Sona, along with Irina and Zenobia, who happened to be in fresh clothes. Apparently they got a call from Irina's dad the day before that suggested they'd arrive. In other words, they knew about Irina and Zenobia before Sona came over for dinner and didn't say anything. Eventually we worked out an arrangement where Irina stayed with us and Zenobia and Asia would move into an apartment together, and Sona of course was free to do as she pleased. Of course Sona picked that moment to remind me that today was the day that I would become her pawn and that things were going to become even more insane. Oh goody. As a result, Irina and Zenobia were back in the occult research club, but this time with the student council with them. I was fortunate that Volley wasn't here because he'd have a field day with this, but again it was time for business. Hey Sona, what's going on? I thought they were going back to the church, Momo wondered. Things have gotten a bit complicated. Sona said nervously. How complicated are we talking? Tsubaki wondered. Sona was nervous and it was clear she didn't want to bring it up. So naturally Issei had to do it. Let me explain it, Sona. Issei said calmly. While Rias and gang were still in the barrier, Kakabiel spilled a very dangerous secret. What secret? Saji wondered. The biblical god is dead. Issei said bluntly. Sugarcoating this one was stupid. No way, Tsubaki gasped as she fell to the ground slightly. She was still part of a family of exorcists, so the death of God was a major blow to her. Tell me about it, Irina deadpanned, having done enough crying. As a result of what happened, Zenobia was expelled, but for some insane reason I wasn't. Since I felt that wasn't fair, I asked my father to make me heaven's liaison and send me back here. They're going to work something out, Irina continued. That's not all, is it? Akeno spoke out. Akeno was no fool and they wouldn't have all gathered just for that. There's more. Tsubasa exclaimed, clearly not wanting more drama. The death of God was bad enough, but if there was more it would drive her up a wall. Yes, there is, and it involves our peerages. Sona spoke up in a very serious tone, silencing everybody. It can't be. You don't mean that? Tsubaki said in shock. Considering everything that happened, there was only one thing that could explain the meeting, and Tsubaki had clearly figured it out. That's right, Tsubaki. That is happening. Sona replied. What's going on here? Sona Momo wondered in confusion. Sona was hesitant to answer, but Rias decided to speak up for her. It's been decided that Sona and I will be trading pawn pieces. So Issei will go to Sona and Saji, and Raruko, along with Sona's 3 remaining pawns, will go to me. Rias revealed. Most of the group was stunned by the news, but a few reactions in particular surprised the group. No way. Saji screamed in despair. You gotta be kidding me, Momo cried angrily. Yufufufu, oh my. Akeno replied in amusement. There were other looks of disbelief, but one person stayed calm. If I may be so blunt, why the sudden change? Surely your relationship with Issei isn't the reason. Tsubaki spoke up, shocking everybody. Wait a minute, when were Sona and Issei in a relationship? Tsubasa wondered. Yeah, that's right. Ria added. We aren't, Issei replied bluntly. Huh. All 3 girls exclaimed. Issei was going to get a kick out of this one, and he knew it. The best way to describe us is friends with benefits. Sona first approached me because she wanted to make sure that when Rias approached me the next year I would be ready for Riser. In exchange for her training me, I had sex with her and our relationship grew from there. Issei admitted, causing Sona and most of the student council girls to blush. You bastard. Saji yelled as he charged Issei before being quickly nailed in the stomach by a jab from Issei. He wasn't knocked out, but it definitely left a mark. Oh, relax, Saji. In many ways you should be grateful that Sona was determined to give me to Rias, because otherwise I would be her pawn now anyway. Issei said coldly. That's not fair, Issei, and you know it, Sona protested, trying to save face. She did want Issei as a pawn, but Rias needed him far more than she did, so she kept the plan going. Regardless of the reason it's happening. Rias stepped in. If it makes you guys feel better, Saji and Raruko will still be part of the council during class, but he'll have to join us at the Orc afterwards for training. Rias said calmly. Alright, Raruko said nervously, since she was a helpless part of the trade. Issei being 8 pawns meant she couldn't stay either, but at least she was going with her secret crush. Raruko, it's not your fault. Unlike Saji, I took all of Ria's pawns, and the rest of her positions are filled. Plus Rias is a good master. Issei said calmly, not worrying about the shot it took at Saji. There would have been more talk, but 2 magic circles appeared in the room. So they're here, Issei said calmly as Surziches and Serafal appeared at last. I hope everyone's finished discussing the matter at hand. Surziches said diplomatically. Yes, we have, Lord Surziches, Sona said firmly. Alrighty then, so it's time for the switch. Surziches said calmly. Wait a minute, Rias cried out. What is it now, Rias? Surziches said with a hint of annoyance. I'd like to ask Issei one more question before he becomes Sona's pawn. Rias pleaded. When Surziches nodded, Rias walked over to Issei and looked at him with a pained expression. Did you serve me because you cared about me, or did you serve me because you knew that's what Sona wanted? Rias wondered. She cared about Issei a lot, and it hurt her that Sona was taking her place. She would feel better if Issei at least said that she was a good leader. Issei could have answered many ways, but he knew that Rias needed the truth. It was because Sona wanted me to. You are a beautiful young woman, and as I've said, you do have a fantastic pair of breasts. However, you have a long way to go before you can truly call yourself a king. Rias was shocked by Issei's words, but managed to keep her composure. Thank you, and I will always be grateful for everything you did for me. Rias replied as she walked over to her former pawn and kissed him on the lips. It was her way of saying goodbye, and everyone in the room knew how painful it was for Rias, hence why nobody said anything. A minute later the kiss ended and Rias moved away. "I take it that's enough," Sirziches replied. "Yes it is," Rias said solemnly. Her time as Issei's master had come to an end, and now it was time to move on. Scene skip. After Rias and Sona traded pawns, Rias was sad, but the news that Zinovia would join her helped soften the blow. Discussions about housing were also taking place since Irina and Zinovia couldn't stay at Issei's house, though Irina was okay with the idea. Sona suggested Irina stay with Issei for the next few days, which struck the group as odd, but was accepted nonetheless. "So how does it feel to officially be my servant?" Sona smirked as she and Issei sat in his room. After the long day Sona wanted to get her Issei time and she wouldn't be denied. Even Irina understood as much and gave the group a break. "Same as usual, but that doesn't mean you'll be able to dominate me in bed," Issei smirked. "Oh shut up and fuck me. The next few days are going to be very tedious," Sona replied as she wrapped her arms around Issei's and the pair fell onto the bed. They weren't a couple but for Sona, being with Issei felt right. Issei's bedroom. "So let me get this straight. Zinovia's first contract was with Murayama of the Kendo Club," Sona said in disbelief. She could barely hide the look of annoyance on her face as Issei told her about his day and what a ridiculous turn it took. "That's right," Issei replied with a smug smile. "But you didn't tell Rias that and decided that doing that was okay," Sona deadpanned. "I thought Zinovia could handle the request," Issei said sheepishly. "Of course Zinovia couldn't and you were called in anyway. Using a fake disguise you arrived hoping to help out only for Zinovia to expose you anyway," Sona said dryly. "Yep," Issei shrugged. "So in the end you convinced Murayama to help Zinovia when she starts class and you gave her your number for a private performance later," Sona groaned. "Correct. Then you went to a love hotel with Zinovia where you deflowered her before coming back here." Yep, Issei smirked, finishing the explanation of his day. "Why the hell does this happen to you, Issei? First there was Azazel, then there was my sister, and now Murayama." Sona groaned in exhaustion. When Rias asked Issei to help Zinovia with her first contract, Sona gladly accepted, but this was far beyond anything she could have expected. Then again, since Issei already had contracts with her sister and one of the cadre, it shouldn't be a surprise. "Hey, it's not my fault Rias doesn't pay attention," Issei protested as he lay with Sona. The two were clothed for the moment, but given how frustrated Sona was, it wouldn't stay that way for long. "Maybe so, but you knew it was Murayama's address. You could have stopped all of this," Sona yelled out. "I could have and I should have, but in the end I didn't. Luckily for us Zinovia has a friend and Murayama will stay silent," Issei replied, defending his actions. "You're unbelievable. You just wanted to fuck Murayama, didn't you?" Sona yelled in annoyance. Issei's perverted personality was getting in the way. "That may be true, but I kept the contract about Zinovia. What happens next is up to Murayama and not me," Issei replied. Sona was furious, but she had to admit Issei was right. "I'm gonna go get a drink of water," Sona growled as she got out of bed. Issei's actions were reckless and foolish and she knew it. Hell, Issei knew it also. Sona POV. "As I left Issei's room I went down to get some water before coming back. I was frustrated at Issei's actions because again they didn't make sense. Damn him. How could he be so reckless? I cursed, hoping to just get a drink of water and call it a night. I wonder if this is how Dr. Frankenstein felt when his monster started acting the way it did," a person said from behind me. Of course I knew who it was and groaned. "I don't think Issei would like it if you referred to him as that monster, Irina, and I don't like being called Dr. Frankenstein either," I deadpanned as I turned towards the chestnut-haired Irina Shido. She was in a pink tank top that showed her healthy cleavage and a pair of blue hot pants, but that wasn't important. What was important was that she basically said that this was all my fault in the first place. "Yes, but he also wouldn't disagree with it," Irina smirked. "What makes you say that?" I twitched. "I'm not sure if you know this, but I pretended to be a guy around Issei for almost 3 years before I moved to England," Irina revealed, much to my shock. "I knew some of the details, but I didn't know it was almost 3 years. "What's your point?" I replied grumpily. "He's gone from not being able to tell somebody's gender to coming up with insane and convoluted plans that nobody sees coming until he's already acted. That's because of you," Irina explained. "You can't be serious." I deadpanned. "True, his actions were completely different from the person he was when I met him, but it can't be because of me. I'm completely serious. The greatest proof of that is the fact that he chose you over Rias," Irina said bluntly, much to my annoyance. "I never intended to fall for him, I never intended for anything to happen, but it did." "Excuse me, you have no idea what my relationship with Issei is like," I replied angrily. Considering how good Issei's senses were, I didn't want to wake him. "Let me guess. Issei was a pervert who constantly got in trouble with the student council. You found out Rias was interested in him but wanted to make sure that the supernatural wasn't discovered and told her to wait because of how the school would take it. Irina explained with a completely calm and cool expression. Issei told you, didn't he? I replied, since she nailed it. Nope, I just took a guess based on your personality and Issei's. Anyway, you wanted to train him and figure out his sacred gear, and you used sex as a motivation since he wouldn't agree to anything otherwise. You then found out he had Drake and your secret relationship was born. Days went by and then weeks, and finally you reached a point where you wanted Issei for yourself. Unfortunately, by the time that happened you had already chosen Saji as your pawn, and that meant you couldn't reincarnate him. That's right, I replied in disbelief that she figured it out. So it all worked out in the end since you got your guy and Rias got Saji, Irina said snarkily. Maybe so, but I still feel guilty, Sona said solemnly. The look of pain on Ria's face when she kissed Issei goodbye was too much for me. Even now there are times that I don't feel worthy of Issei. Then stop. Right now Issei chose you over Rias and it's your responsibility as the head of his harem to keep him in line. Head of his harem? I questioned. Well, there's Yumi Zenobia and now Murayama. Rias and Akeno won't give up anytime soon and there's no doubt he'll find other girls before all is said and done. I was flabbergasted that Irina realized all of that despite how little time she had spent with us and Issei. Maybe so, but why am I the head and not you? I asked curiously. She was his childhood friend and he had done so much to protect her. Why would she not claim that spot? I don't deserve to be the head of his harem right now. I need to get to know the new Issei and not the image of Issei I held onto. Irina admitted. Alright, I said happily. Oh, and one more thing. Get him a bigger bed. It's kinda hard to cuddle in that cramped thing. Irina teased. Thought it, I laughed as Irina made her way back up to the room. It was a very revealing conversation and all things considered maybe it was time I reward Issei for everything he's done. Scene skip. Issei POV. Normally I hated school and it was because I found the day-to-day tedious. Nice to meet you everyone, Irina winced as she stood in front of my class. The reason for that was me using the boosted gear during a bit of shower sex this morning. Admittedly the girls had left me alone the last few days and I was annoyed by it and Irina just so happened to be the one who broke the streak. Partner, you were a bit brutal on your childhood friend, Drake muttered to me. Yeah, I know, I replied, mentally enjoying how much fun I was having at Irina's expense. I was looking forward to the lunch break since I had no clue what would happen for once. As Irina scowled at me I smiled back knowing that my new life had begun. Scene skip. When lunch arrived I went up to the rooftop curious about what would happen next. Typically I chowed down my bento and then met with one of the girls. Most of the time it was Sona, but with her as my master that was bound to change. As the door opened I received a pleasant surprise when Momo Hanakai showed up and stood a few feet in front of me. Well, hello there, I replied with a pleasant smile. I had no clue what Momo was planning, but given her annoyed expression, this was going to be my usual fun. I don't like you, Issei, Momo said harshly. Because of Saji, or is it something else? I replied with a calm demeanor. Momo was clearly against us switching and it wasn't just because of Saji. Momo flinched a little bit before surprising me. Well, it's true that I was interested in Saji, that's not why I'm mad at you. I'm mad because of what you did to Sona. And that is? I questioned. I don't know why Sona and you started that little relationship of yours, but in the end you forced her to deceive everyone she knew. She lied to Rias because she wanted to keep her safe. She lied to us because she went on missions just to train you. What's so funny, Momo growled because I started chuckling during her insane explanation. So you're mad because I forced your master to lie for my sake? Oh, that's rich, I chuckled while trying to keep my cool. Quit laughing, Momo growled. Momo, my dear, let me tell you two things that you clearly don't know, I smirked. The first is that I never forced Sona to do anything. She was the one who came to me. I revealed. You're lying. You sunk your perverted claws into her somehow, Momo protested. I found her amusing, so I continued. Yes, I did, but she decided to do that, not me. She was the one who offered her body to me because she felt that it would save Rias. She was the one who became so entranced with me that she did everything she did. When it came time for Rias to recruit me, she was the one who warned me about Rainer, even though the plan was already in place. She was the one who set the stage for everything that we have now, and it was her and Rias who decided to switch pawns. I merely decided to go along with it, I said with a cruel smile. It can't be, Momo gasped. I love how she got this one all wrong, and it was almost pitiable in a way. That's right. I never did anything but enjoy Sona's body. I scoffed. Then why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you end things once you joined Rias, Momo yelled. Because it wasn't my place to end it. Sona knew what she was doing and did it anyway. Meanwhile Rias acted as she pleased, knowing that she could get away with it because of her brother. Admittedly her body was the only good thing about her. I said coldly. Ria's arrogance was amazing, and frankly she didn't deserve my loyalty or power. Momo was clearly swayed by my argument and her expression changed. "Just promise me something." "What's that?" I replied. "That you'll treasure Sona. She's done a lot for your sake and I hope you appreciate that," Momo said calmly. "That's the plan," I replied. What Momo wasn't aware of was that Sona was listening the whole time and I have no doubt she appreciated what I had to say. Scene skip. I found myself in Azazel's house yet again, which was comical considering that Sona was furious when she learned about the contract in the first place. It didn't help that the student council still hated me and that Sona was busy. Tsubaki was actually the one who sent me here because Sona had some business to handle away from school. My offhanded comment gave Azazel an idea for a new product. I still couldn't believe that he wanted to use my power as the Red Dragon Emperor as a devil's reproduction drug. With the fun over, it was time to get advice. "So do you think I should tell Sona about Kakabiel's final message?" I wondered. I had no clue what the 6 represented, but clearly it was a big deal. "Yeah, you should. Kakabiel said that for a reason and you need to find out what it was," Azazel replied, and I agreed with him. Once I get back to my house, I started to say before getting a text from Murayama. I couldn't help but smile since it meant that she had done her part for our contract. "I'm guessing you gotta go," Azazel smirked. I replied as I made my way back to Kuo and fulfill another contract. "Well, sorta." Scene skip. The text I received was from Murayama and it was time for me to deflower my long-time foe. "Hello Issei," Murayama said happily as I arrived in the kendo lockers to find her waiting for me, uniform and all. "Hello Murayama. I know why I'm here and I don't mind, but I have a question for you," I said calmly. Something was bothering me big time about this and I had to know the truth. "Yes, I am wearing panties," Murayama teased. "That's not it," I twitched slightly. "How did you get the contract circle in the first place?" I asked nervously. "I can't believe you're worried about that still," Murayama pouted. "So are you gonna tell me or not?" I said impatiently. "Yes, but you'd better fuck me extra hard afterwards," Murayama groaned. Fine, I said impatiently. "Man, I had her wrong from the start. Me and Caddis got it from a weird cosplayer 2 weeks ago when we were out shopping. We had no clue whether or not to try it, so I decided to test it out and tell her what happened," Murayama explained, much to my annoyance. "So Caddis knows about the supernatural also?" I replied with a look of even greater annoyance. If Caddis used the circle, we could have been headed for disaster. "No, she doesn't. I made sure to lie since clearly you have your secrets," Murayama said calmly. With that out of the way, I made my way towards Murayama. "Good, and as thanks for doing this I'm gonna make you feel real good," I said with a lustful tone. Get it, pervert," Murayama said almost in defiance. I was definitely gonna enjoy this. Sona POV. The time had finally arrived for Issei to see the new house I built for him in secret and with help from Irina and my older sister. I was pretty lucky that Azazel called for his contract and that he had other business to handle, or I wouldn't have been able to finish it in time for Issei to come back from school since we had made the prep all day. Here I was in a blue dress ready to celebrate my new life with Issei, and as I sensed his aura around the corner, I hoped this was the beginning of something special. Of course, when I saw that Issei was with Zenobia Asia and a very angry Irina, I had a bad feeling my new pawn had done something stupid. Scene skip. "I must be crazy to have fallen in love with you," I groaned as I relaxed with Issei in his new much larger bed. Apparently his business at Kuo involved fucking his old rival into a coma and having Asia heal her. That completely ruined the big reveal of his new house, and after the tour was over, Irina and Zenobia wanted to join me in breaking in the bed. Irina and Zenobia were asleep for the moment, or at least Zenobia was. Maybe so, but my business did provide a very surprising piece of information. Issei revealed. I was almost afraid to ask, but I did anyway. "What happened?" "Well." Issei said, and man did I wish he kept it to himself. Somehow Caddis had managed to get a hold of the circle, and his unofficial contract with her was the only thing keeping our secret safe. "Any more bad news before we go to bed, since clearly my life can't get more annoying?" I scowled. "Actually yes," Issei replied. "I jinxed myself. I freaking jinxed myself." "What is it now?" I groaned. "After I took him out, Kakabiel revealed a very interesting piece of information to me," Issei said with a smile. "What?" I groaned while giving Issei an almost icy stare. This couldn't be good if he was hiding secrets again. "The devil who hired him was part of something called the Six. Any clue what that means?" Issei replied, and I could feel my heart sink. The Six referred to the 6 youth devils who had reached teenage years all at the same time: me, Rias, Sarag Bale, Sikvera Agares, Zephyr Glaciolabolas, and Diodora Asterith. Obviously, me and Rias had nothing to do with it, and Sarag and Sikvera weren't the type to do something like that either. Zephyr would have made some sense, but he was only interested in beasts. That meant that the person who arranged for Asia to be brought to Kua was Diodora Astareth. What it also meant was that the brother of Amaya might be a traitor. I have no clue, I replied, hoping to distract him. My life was about to become even more annoying, and this revelation didn't help. Okay, Issei replied kindly. A moment later his mother came into the room and told us about dinner. It's also unreal, but hey, I signed up for this life. Hopefully with Issei by my side I can survive the upcoming storm. WW, what did you just say? I gasped as I dropped my fork. We were eating dinner when Issei's mom reminded me of something that I had completely forgotten about. You heard me, Sona dear, I said I can't wait for Parents' Day. Issei's mom said, much to my utter shock and horror. I completely forgot that Parents' Day was coming up. I don't get it. Why is Parents' Day so bad? Asia asked innocently. It's not for most people, but Sona is worried that her older sister will come and embarrass her, Issei explained. Damn straight I'm worried, Issei. Serafal always finds a way to make my life miserable. She can't be that bad, Irina said hesitantly. Irina, you haven't met my sister so you don't know what she's like. She wears a Milky Spiral cosplay outfit pretty much everywhere, Issei deadpanned. I stand corrected, Irina replied, trying not to twitch. I couldn't blame her either. Well, we can worry about that later, Issei said with a small smirk on his face. The way he was smiling, I was certain that Issei had a plan to solve my problem. What I didn't know was how much it would cost me, and that was the part that made me nervous. Scene skip. Issei was a creature of habit, and ever since he moved into the house he always trained early in the morning before class. Once he was done he would go to his healing tub for a nice soak and typically have sex with somebody, typically Irina, since she seemed to know just how long he trained for. Since I needed to speak to him as soon as possible, I made my way down to the tub, hoping that he was alone. Naturally I was wrong. Good morning, Sona, very naked Irina Shido said with a smile on her face. Her trademark chestnut hair down and her breast were floating on the water. Just as always she was sitting on Issei's lap. I'm pretty sure he's supposed to relax in that tub. I retorted as I looked at the pair. But sex is relaxing, Issei teased much to my annoyance. Now was not the time for his games. Now Issei, we're not having sex right now. Plus Sona has much bigger problems to worry about, doesn't she, Irina teased since she clearly remembered the night before. True. She needs to figure out a way to ensure that her sister doesn't get in her way. Luckily for me, Serafal's going to ask for me today. Issei smirked. How do you know that? I asked, almost afraid of the answer. Because despite her quirky actions, Serafal is surprisingly predictable. Well, at least to me, Issei smirked. The way he said that annoyed me since my sister was impossible to read for me. Maybe it's because Issei was so whimsical that he could do it, but who knows. So what's it gonna cost me, I asked bluntly. It was obvious that Issei had a plan to keep Serafal away and that when he called her, he would present said plan. It'll cost a little bit of your pride, but that's it, Issei smirked, clearly aware of what I was asking about. Irina looked at both of us in confusion, but that didn't matter. Explain. I said nervously. Issei explained what I had to do in order to stop my sister from coming to Parents' Day, and I was certainly caught off guard. All I needed for some peace and quiet on Parents' Day was to have a threesome with my sister and Issei. Scene skip. Issei POV. Lunchtime had arrived and I once again found myself waiting for my girl of the day. Because I'm just one guy and so many girls are interested in me, I took the lunch break to have a quickie with one of my various harem members. I was curious how they decided it, but I figured that was a mystery that didn't need solving. When the door opened, Murayama appeared and it was time for some fun. Hello Murayama, I said with a smile as I finished my bento. I was hoping to talk to her. Zenobia told me that you switched masters. I assume our arrangement from before is still on. Murayama smiled as she walked over to me. Yes it is, I smiled as I kissed Murayama on the lips. As our tongues began to clash the door opened to reveal Momo Hanakai. You're truly disgusting, Issei Haidu, Momo scowled. And you're interrupting my time with Murayama, I retorted. She should have easily detected the privacy barrier and yet she came up here anyway. Good grief. Just wait until Sona hears about this, Momo taunted before leaving in a flash. She is aware that Sona accepts your desire for a harem, right? Murayama wondered. It was an obvious question, but there was nothing I can do. Who knows, but I believe I was going to fuck you, I smirked as I spun her around so her hands were against the railing. Yes you were. Murayama smiled as my lunch continued as normal. Scene skip. Momo's POV. See ya, Sona, Issei smirked as he used a magic circle to go leave on one of his contracts. Once he was gone it was clear that Sona was nervous about something and that it involved Issei. The rest of the peerage felt the same, and that included Tsubaki, who had left matters alone for the moment. I couldn't do that though. What's the matter, Sona? I asked calmly. Since I had been friends with her for so long I was worried about her and how she was handling everything. Nothing, Momo. Parents' Day is just a headache and I'm trying to make sure everything stays calm. Sona replied. It was obvious that she was lying and I knew it. Hey Prez, where is Issei going for his contract? Ria wondered. I had to admit that I was wondering the same thing. He's doing one of his old contracts from his time with Rias. Sona replied, not saying anything else. Got it, Ria answered. We were about to return to our work, but Sona's cell phone rang. It was actually rare that she answered it, but from the look on her face she had to this time. I'll be right back, Sona groaned with a clear look of annoyance on her face. I had no clue what it was, but something was clearly on Sona's mind. When she came back a minute later she was surprisingly calm. Hopefully things worked themselves out. Scene skip. An hour into our activities Sona looked at us and said something surprising, I'm going out on a contract of my own. I'll see you girls later. Understood. Tsubaki replied calmly as Sona left the room. Tsubaki, where is Sona going? I asked nervously. Sona was clearly hiding something and I thought the secrets were dealt with. I'm not at liberty to say. Tsubaki frowned. Okay, Tsubaki clearly knew what was going on and she didn't want to tell us. What's going on, Tsubaki? Please tell us, I pleaded. Yeah, she's right. Sona's been hiding plenty from us already and it's getting annoying, Tomo continued. Tsubaki frowned a little bit but she seemed to resign herself to the truth. Sona is currently with Lady Leviathan and Issei. Tsubaki admitted, causing me to go nuts. Issei had a contract with Serafal and now he was dragging Sona into something. I couldn't take any more. That bastard, I yelled as I prepared a magic circle in order to stop whatever he was planning. Wait, Momo, Tsubaki said hurriedly, but I was determined to stop Issei from taking advantage of Sona yet again. Scene skip. Issei POV. As I lined my member up with Sona's soaked snatch ready for the second leg of my Sitri sister threesome, a magic circle appeared behind us. I felt a frown appear on my face when Momo appeared in front of us and clearly she was in a bad mood. Care to explain this one, Sona, I teased as Sona's face went crimson. Shut up, you bastard. Momo growled as she walked up to me and slapped me right in the face. Clearly upset with whatever was going on. Momo. Sona shouted, clearly not expecting that reaction. Sorry, Sona, but I had to do it. This bastard keeps sinking his fans into other women despite having you already. Momo yelled. Good grief, she clearly didn't understand what was going on. What are you talking about, Momo? Sona scowled as she got up and stared at her bishop with a look of pure annoyance. Momo is pissed because she feels as though I'm abusing your affection for me because of my various relationships. I explained. Exactly. Wait a minute. You have multiple relationships. Momo exclaimed. That's right. I'm sleeping with Imperial-samaB, Irina, Zenobia, obviously Serafal, and of course our master. I explained calmly. I didn't feel like explaining my full list since she would go bonkers. You said you would treasure Sona, you bastard. What's wrong with you, Momo yelled back. Her anger was surprising, but it didn't bother me too much. That's enough, Momo. Sona yelled, surprising me since she rarely showed this much emotion. But Sona. Momo protested. Clearly she wasn't happy. I get it, Momo, we've been friends for a long time and it feels like Issei has changed me for the worst, but you're wrong. When I was with Issei nothing else mattered and I loved that. For once I wasn't Sona Sitri, heir of the Sitri clan, but I was Sona Sitri, teenage girl, and that was special. Hell, there was a part of me that wanted to make him my pawn instead of Saji or Raruko, but I didn't because I knew that Rias needed him more than I did. True, it may seem like we traded pawns, but the truth is I basically loaned him to Rias, and the trade allowed me to get him back, Sona explained as she seemingly fought back tears. Man, I didn't see this coming at all. Sona Serafal said solemnly as she listened in on the confession. For a second I felt guilty myself. So you really love him, huh? Momo said in disbelief. I do, but I also know that I'm not the only one. Irina has loved him since he was a kid and now she doesn't have to leave him again. Zenobia relies on Issei because of the fact that she was alone and in unfamiliar territory and he looked after her when he had no obligation to. Sona cried out. That's enough, Sona, I said sternly as I grabbed her from behind. Whatever plans I may have had were done. Issei, Sona said tearfully as she looked at me. I don't deserve somebody like you and Momo's right that I haven't treated you the way you deserved. I said firmly before turning to Lady Leviathan. Hey Sarah, I think we should stop. Sona only went through with this because she wants a peaceful Parents' Day. I say we give her that. I took everything for granted, but seeing how Sona felt was truly something. Yeah, you're right. I'll stay away from Parents' Day and leave everything to you. Serafal said solemnly as she started to get dressed. Got it, I replied. Man, I was wrong after all, Momo frowned. It's okay, Momo, because you were right. The one who was wrong was me. I said calmly. I so tan, Serafal said cheerfully as she left the room. See you guys tomorrow, Momo said calmly as she teleported away as well. All that was left was Sona and me, and after what happened I was going to get slapped. Wait a minute, why was Sona slapping me? What's wrong with you, Issei? Sona yelled at me after slapping me all of a sudden. Wrong with me? Why the hell did you slap me? I yelled back. What the heck just happened? Because you were acting like an idiot, Sona growled. Who was this and what happened to Sona? Sitri? What happened to that beautiful speech from a moment ago? Explain, I said calmly, trying to keep my composure. Momo is bisexual, you idiot. She's had a crush on me for as long as Saji has, Sona replied. Wait a minute, so I gasped, not expecting this. I was acting the whole time. Clearly I'm a better actor than I thought if you were fooled by my crocodile tears. Sona growled. She wasn't the only one fooled. You could have won an award for that. Serafol smirked as she returned to the bedroom. Geez, I show emotions once and everybody freaks out. Am I that stoic? Sona groaned. Yes, I teased as I kissed her on cheek, the slap forgotten. Oh, shut up and fuck me, you idiot. Thanks to all that you're not hard anymore, Sona pouted. Well, it seems as though I've got some work to do. Room for one more, Serafol smirked as she snapped her fingers and was naked again. I've got a few shots left, I smirked as my member returned to full strength. I had a threesome to finish, and although it wasn't quite how I expected the day to go, I was getting my girls after all. Scene skip. Normal POV. For most kids, Parents' Day was a headache because they couldn't act the way they wanted to because their parents were around. For Issei Haidu, it was a headache because it would be the first time he's seen Surziches and the Gremory family since he and Sona traded pawns, and he knew what an awkward conversation that would be. When he arrived at school with his family, he could sense Surzich's presence, and Issei groaned in annoyance since he knew what that meant. Of course, that was this morning. The time has come, Issei thought to himself as he looked over the railing and down at the school below. It was lunchtime and for obvious reasons he couldn't have sex, but he could reflect on everything that's happened. A penny for your thoughts, a voice said from behind him. Turning around, Issei saw the Vice President Tsubaki Shinra walk onto the rooftop. Hey Tsubaki, did I do the right thing by going along with the trade? Issei wondered. It was a rare moment of reflection for him, and he knew that he put Rias in a difficult spot. I'm surprised you care about Rias all of a sudden. Tsubaki chuckled. Rias annoyed the heck out of me, but I can't help but think that tons of drama is coming my way because of it. Issei groaned. There will be tons of drama, but frankly it's not your fault. Tsubaki said bluntly. And why's that? Issei questioned. Because Rias was playing a dangerous game and she knew it. What happened to her was a reality check, and in the end, Rias will learn a valuable lesson that you can't just manipulate everyone and hope for the best. Tsubaki admitted. Issei was taken aback by the harshness of everything, but the fact that Tsubaki was so accepting of it caught him off guard. After all, she was Sona's queen and knew both girls as well as anything. Thanks, Tsubaki. I didn't expect that coming from you. Issei smirked as he started to walk back to his classroom where his parents were waiting. Anytime, Issei, Tsubaki smiled. Right now it was time for him to go back to class and he'd deal with any drama he could. Scene skip. Unsurprisingly, Issei's family invited the Gremorys back to his house after Parents' Day out of respect for everything that the Devil King was. No doubt it was going to be awkward when Surziches and Issei spoke since he was no longer talking to his sister's pawn but to the pawn of another person, but both were aware of that. Of course, before they could do that, there was the fact that Issei's parents took videos of Irina and Zenobia so their family back in the church could see that they were doing just fine. Damn it, would you have to do that? Irina pouted as Issei's mom showed a video of her in class. Considering she was laughing at Ria's video a few moments ago, it was karma of sorts. Aha, sucks to be you, Irina, Issei chuckled since he made a deal with his parents that he would do extra chores around the large house in exchange for them not taking a video of him. Oh, just wait until we get to your videos, Mr. Irina smirked since Issei had a few moments himself. Oh, I don't have any. I made a deal with my parents so they wouldn't do anything, Issei smirked. Traitor, Irina pouted, smirked. So I assume you're free to talk, Issei, Surziches said calmly. Yes, I am, Issei replied since he knew this was coming. Wait, big brother, Rias said nervously since she knew that her brother wasn't thrilled with the switch to Sona's peerage but went along with it anyway. Don't worry, Rias, we're just going to have a friendly chat, Surziches said calmly. Don't take too long, guys. Issei's mom warned. We won't, Issei replied as he got up. Surziches and Issei left the room ready for a private talk. Most of the people who watched the pair leave were nervous, but they also knew that this was a conversation that was coming. It's been 3 days since Parents' Day arrived and Issei Haidu was once again in his hot tub relaxing after another morning training session. What are you planning, Surziches? Issei thought to himself as he thought back to the conversation he had with the Devil King on Parents' Day and wondered why Surziches asked what he asked. Flashback. Do you know why I want to speak with you? Surziches said calmly as he stared at a relaxed Issei. I imagine you want to know why I went along with Sona and Ria's idea to trade me to Sona. Issei assumed. No, though admittedly that was a strange decision by the girls. What I want to know is what does the change mean for the relationship between you and my sister? Any relationship we have moving forward will be up to her. The one we had up until now was based on Sona's desire to help Rias with Riser and me going along with it. Our new relationship will be up to Rias herself. Issei replied. Our relationship was superficial to this point and anything that happens would be up to Rias. I see, Serziches replied with a look of hope in his eyes. Is that it? Issei wondered. Yes, it is. Serziches replied as he returned to the party, leaving Issei alone. Flashback end. Serziches was planning something and Issei knew it. The question was what? We have company partner Drake warned as a magic circle appeared in front of the bath. Yes, and it's quite the guest, Issei replied, since it was the red circle of Ria's grimoire. Just as he expected, his former master appeared in front of him dressed in the Kuo Academy uniform. Hello Issei, can we talk? Ria said nervously. Issei couldn't blame her since they hadn't spoken since the day he became Sona's new pawn. Sure, Issei said calmly, staying in the tub. I have a favor to ask you, Ria said calmly. Knowing how Issei was, she had to choose her words carefully. I'm listening, Issei said calmly. I have a servant named Gasper that was sealed in a locked room on the second floor of our building. Because of his volatile powers, my brother decided to lock him away. I see, and what does that have to do with me? Issei replied coldly. My brother decided recently to unlock him as a reward for the way I've handled the last few months, Ria said bashfully. I'm still not seeing the point. Issei deadpanned. Rias hadn't done anything but ride his coattails, and Serziches should know better. I need you to train him, Rias requested. Why should I do it? Issei groaned, since something stunk about this whole thing. Rias frowned since she really didn't want to discuss this, but she knew that if Issei was going to help her, she had to fess up. Gasper has the sacred gear Forbidden Baylor View. At its base he possesses the ability to stop time, but his balance breaker is far more fearsome. Saji started helping him yesterday, but they weren't able to make any progress. I see, Issei frowned since it explained Serzich's question the other day. Serziches knew that Rias couldn't help him, and neither could Saji. He was using Issei to train Ria's pawn for her. So will you help me, Issei? I know that it's a lot to ask since you're not my servant, but I really need this, Rias pleaded. What are you going to do, partner? At the end of the day, the only person who can help her is you, Drake said into his mind. I know, Drake. I know. Issei yelled into his mind. Sorry, Rias, but I'm not going to help you. Issei said reluctantly. Why? Rias replied. She knew it was a lot to ask, but she was desperate. Because your brother released Gasper because he wants to see what you can do. If I do the job for you, how can you grow as a king? Issei replied calmly. He hated to turn her down, but Rias did need to grow. I understand. Rias replied as she left in her magic circle. With his conversation with Rias over, Issei was ready to finish his soak and get ready for the day, at least that was his plan. I'm surprised you turned her down, Sona Sitri said with a smile as she walked into the room with a towel wrapped around her body. How long were you listening, Sona? Issei groaned. Long enough. You really should help her, Issei. Sona replied. Is that so? Issei groaned since it meant that Sona heard their entire conversation. Because there's a little detail that Rias left out that changes everything. Sona said with a smirk. Oh. Issei replied with a twitch. Next Saturday the three factions are going to meet and work out an agreement to end the ceasefire between the groups. I found out last night, but I couldn't tell you since you were occupied with Zenobia. Sona smiled, knowing that Issei would figure out what that means. Is that so? Issei's expression soured, realizing what was really going on. Yes, it is. So you know what you have to do? Sona smiled, knowing her pawn had got the message. I'm curious why you're essentially telling me that I have to help the kid even if it makes life tougher for you. Because Rias is my friend and I want to help her. Sona replied coyly. I see, and it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you feel bad for taking me even after all this time. Issei smirked, knowing that it was a half-truth. The reality was that the peace conference was a dangerous and reckless game and that Ria's new bishop was a liability. Serziches knew that and realized that the only person who could train Gasper was Issei himself. Sona frowned and instantly dropped her towel before getting into the tub and sitting on top of her lover. Oh, shut up and fuck me, you ass. Sona pouted. As you wish, Milady, Issei teased as he began his day just as he had many others recently, having sex with one of his many girls. Scene skip. Issei finished his shower and quickly got dressed after his session with Sona, but he was furious that he had to help Rias. Hey Issei, are you ready to go? Irina said nervously as she knocked on his door. You get going without me, Irina. I have some business to handle before class. Issei said sternly. Just don't be late, Irina replied. Got it, Issei yelled back. With everything said, it was time to go meet the newest member of the Grimoire Peerage. Scene skip. Lunchtime arrived and Issei returned to the Orc Club room intent on finishing his conversation with Gasper from earlier. "Yo Gasper, are you busy?" Issei said from outside his door. "Not at all, I was waiting to see if you'd actually come. People have let me down before, so I wondered if you would be the same," Gasper said timidly. "But well, I'm coming in," Issei smiled, since this was the beginning of a new friendship. As they spoke, Issei learned a lot about Gasper, about how when he was a baby his own mother was afraid of him, and about his friend Valerie who looked after him. Two things were very clear to Issei. First was that Gasper feared his power on a basic level. If he was going to become a proper fighter, he had to get over that. The second thing was that Rias once again handled a situation poorly. You shouldn't accept a servant and then create such an environment for him. You actually make the problem worse. As he walked into the room, Gasper was watching an anime on TV. "So what do you want to talk about?" Gasper wondered, though he kept his eyes on the television. "Right now I'm just gonna relax with you until lunch is over. Saji's already begun your training, so I'll accompany you to that and see what he's been up to. It's going to take some time to get your powers, and I'm not gonna rush," Issei replied as he sat down with a young vampire. "Okay," Gasper said happily. This was the beginning of a beautiful friendship for the young man. Scene skip. Issei, Saji and Gasper were outside of the old club room ready to begin their training. Issei and Saji were in the male gym uniform, while Gasper wore the female one, much to Issei's annoyance. "So you're gonna help us, haha, I do?" Saji groaned in annoyance. He already hated Issei since he was in the relationship with Sona, but now that his new master was recruiting him drove him nuts. "That's right, Saji, so let me see what you guys have been doing," Issei said calmly. Issei watched as Saji tossed rubber balls at Gasper and the vampire tried to stop time. It was actually a decent strategy, but Gasper was failing miserably. "See what I mean?" Saji said in disappointment. "Yes, I do." Issei frowned as he turned to Gasper. "Gasper, I want you to listen carefully and do exactly what I say," Issei said sternly. "Oh, okay," Gasper said nervously. "I want you to focus as much of your power as you can and release it." Saji and Gasper said at once. "You heard me," Issei groaned as he prepared a powerful privacy barrier. But the Saji cringed as Issei's power made itself known. The last time he picked a fight with Issei he failed miserably, and the difference between their powers was now ingrained into his head. "Show me your power, Gasper. Show me what you can do," Issei said coldly as he looked at Gasper. "But my power is scary," Gasper said nervously, although he endured the force so far. "And so is mine, but you don't seem concerned. Control your power, don't let it control you," Issei said coldly, getting closer to 60%. Gasper was stunned at how easily Issei was able to wield his power and realized that when he said he wasn't worried about Gasper's power. "Got it," Gasper said as he found a new veil of confidence. Soon Gasper was focusing his own power, which was fairly impressive considering his lack of training. "That's it. Embrace your power," Issei said happily as Gasper slowly began to control the strength. The kid was raw, that much was obvious, but he could be a serious threat if Issei wasn't careful. "Not that I don't find this speech hilarious, but Saji is kinda knocked out." Azazel smirked as he revealed himself at last. Thanks to Azazel revealing himself, Gasper lost focus of his power and the moment was lost. "Thanks for ruining the moment, Azazel," Issei deadpanned, having forgotten about his fellow pawn. Of course Saji was indeed unconscious. "No problem. Admittedly, I was curious how the princess would deal with the kid, and now I know." Azazel smiled. Issei looked towards Gasper and noticed that he was breathing heavily. Clearly he hadn't trained in a while. "Well, since we have a few minutes before Gasper is ready to train, how about we have some fun?" Issei said with a devious smirk. "What did you have in mind?" Azazel smirked. Issei picked up Saji and smiled. "The swim club shouldn't finish practice for another hour. How about we give them a surprise?" Issei said deviously. "This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, Issei." Azazel smirked. "We've been friends for a long time already, Azazel," Issei retorted as Issei removed the barrier and decided to punish Saji for his pitiful display. It was clear that Gasper had a long way to go, but he could be a real powerhouse if Issei trained him properly. Scene skip. The night before the conference, Issei and Sona were relaxing in bed after yet another night of lovemaking. "So Issei, which part of your training with Gasper do you like best? The part where you get to bully Saji or the part where you get to sleep with your old master?" Sona teased as he held her in his arms, his naked body pressed against hers. "I can't tell really. There's some beautiful satisfaction in both," Issei retorted as he kissed her on the cheek. "Considering you only fuck her in the ass, I'm surprised you can say that," Issei Irina teased. "For a church girl you're pretty vulgar," Sona pouted slightly. It was no secret that she wasn't a huge fan of the fact that Issei was fucking Rias in the ass every morning. "Blame Issei for corrupting me. Even if I didn't learn about God's death, I probably would have returned just because of how good he is in bed," Irina shrugged. "Anyway, the conference is tomorrow and it's going to be very interesting," Issei deadpanned. And by interesting you mean annoying since the Cows Brigade is going to attack Sona deadpanned. Yes, Issei replied. It felt like the only person who wasn't aware of the attack was Rias, and the fact she hadn't discussed as much with her peerage was embarrassing. Well, you have a plan and so do the others, Sona smiled. True, but you know as well as I do that it's never that simple, Issei frowned. This was going to be a long day, and Issei knew it. Luckily for him, he was the type who knew how to play the game as well as anybody. End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.